Good evening and welcome to News Channel 8. I'm Jerome Aegean, and these are some of the top stories we have for you tonight. The commissioner gives his thoughts on a controversial sentencing. A house fire consumes a victim in Wim, and Cokie Point gets a cleanup. These stories and more are up next on News Channel 8.
News Channel 8 is sponsored by AT&T. Centennial is joining AT&T for greater coverage, more innovation, and better service.
Our top story tonight takes us to St. Thomas, where the controversial sentencing of Wesselhoff that uncovered an AK-47 assault rifle and numerous drugs on January 1st of 2010. Since that time, citizens of the Virgin Islands, a non-profit group, and the Virgin Islands Police Department were surprised at the sentencing in this case, and many felt it was a slap on the wrist during a time when the Virgin Islands needs to be hard on crime. Lee Carl caught up with Police Commissioner Francis outside of Government House on St. Thomas and asked him to make a statement on these issues and more in this exclusive interview.
The controversial sentencing by a Superior Court judge that sparked ire of the Virgin Islands Police Commissioner, the governor, and a nonprofit organization was another subject. I caught up with Police Commissioner Novell Francis at Government House and asked him about that, and did he get any flack or static from the Justice Department?
I really felt discouraged by the sentences that was handed down to Jamal Wesselhoff, and I made no bones about it. I think that clearly the criminal justice system has to work together in order to close the loop, and it has to work for everyone. But I'm not going to belabor the issue. I think it's clear in terms of what's required here, and all we're asking that they reconsider some of the sentencing or individuals that possess firearms in our community. We just can't have gun-toting criminals walking our streets. I think it put us all at risk. But more importantly, it put my officers at risk who go out there every day to save this community. And when they make these type of apprehension, it's important that the criminal justice system is followed through.
Would you say the traffic stops have really made some dent in getting guns off?
This has been extremely effective. When you look at 242 guns taken off the streets of the Virgin Islands from January to present, I think that speaks volume. While we have jurisdictional responsibilities in terms of our borders, I think on the interior, the police department has stepped up to the plate to take these guns off of the street, and just that we're asking for the cooperation of everyone in our efforts to do this. We're still hoping that ATF will consider coming back to address our borders and the jurisdictional responsibilities in terms of the open seas. And here in the territory, we will continue to do our part to rid the streets of these firearms.
Now, I know you testified after Senator 12 committee on that bill that deals directly with bringing guns in. What do you feel so far?
Well, clearly, I think that it is a good bill, and we support the bill RRX, and I felt that it stopped short of being able to identify the illegal firearms that's coming into the territory. It addressed those individuals that legitimately wants to bring the firearms in, but we stopped short of addressing the illegal ones. Just recently, earlier this week, again, we saw where a firearm was brought in here, and we had a good collaboration between the federal and local authorities in being able to recover that firearm from the passenger as he came into St. Thomas CBD King Airport. And that's the type of collaboration I want to see going forward.
Thanks, Lee Carl, and thanks, Commissioner Francis. And in other news is the tragedy in Wim when a house fire reveals the body of George Perales. In an off-camera interview with Perales' family and neighbors, he informed us that George Perales had recently suffered a stroke, lost his job, and was living in a house just in back of his family's residence. It's believed that an argument broke out between George Perales and Edwin Encarnacion, a friend who is now the main suspect in this case. He was seen by an eyewitness fleeing the house after the fire began. George Perales' body was uncovered with a sustained stab wound. The reason for the argument is still unclear. Here now is Chief Oakland Benta, who makes a statement about this event.
On August 14th, 2010, about 9:52 in the morning, calls came into 911 in reference to a house fire in the estate Wim area in Frederiksted. Upon arrival of the police officers along with members of the fire department, they observed that a small living quarter was on fire, and the fire department immediately began extinguishing the flames. While doing so, the trained and able bodies of the fire department observed that there was a human body in the rubbles, which was burnt beyond facial recognition. Based on preliminary investigation, the victim was identified as one Jorge Parilla, a 45-year-old male and a resident of the house. It appears that foul play is a factor, and this matter is being investigated and handled as a homicide. At this time, the Virgin Islands Police Department is looking for one Edwin Encarnacion, a 30-year-old Hispanic male who is about 5 feet 4 in height and weighs approximately 150 pounds, with a very low haircut and a light complexion. It has been determined that Mr. Encarnacion had a feud with Mr. Parilla a few days ago and was observed running away from the house when the fire began. We are asking anyone with information as to the whereabouts of Mr. Edwin Encarnacion to please contact the Virgin Islands Police Department by way of either 911 or the Criminal Investigation Bureau by way of 712-6037 or ask to the Major Crime Division. We are also cautioning anyone who is assisting or hiding Mr. Edwin Encarnacion in an attempt to elude the police that they can and will be charged with aiding Mr. Edwin Encarnacion.
Thanks, Chief Benta. And again, Edwin Encarnacion is considered a fugitive in this crime. If you've seen Edwin Encarnacion, please contact authorities, and the Virgin Islands Police Department reminds you that harboring Edwin may result in your own punishment. Do not be an accessory in this case. And it's been over a month now since the horrible tragedy in Cokie Point, where a 14-year-old Puerto Rican visitor to St. Thomas was the victim of a stray bullet and died. Since that time, the Virgin Islands authorities and government have made efforts to clean up Cokie Point. Lee Carl was there this weekend and caught up with many of the officials at Cokie Point, including Governor John DeYoung, during the effort.
This is Cokie Beach during the cleanup celebration. Talked to an Italian couple and the Deputy Chief, Dwayne DeGraff. He was out here, and hopefully I'll get a chance to speak to the Commissioner when he arrives on the scene.
Cokie Point is looking very good. The cleanup campaign, I think, went very well. I have officers assigned to the beach, 2 officers on an all-wheel drive where they could drive actually onto the sand, right to the crest of the water, and they will be patrolling up and down the beach on a regular basis to make sure all the traffic is going well, and basic officer safety, public safety. This is one of the ATV vehicles, all-wheel drive. We have 2 of them assigned to the beach area. They'll be here from like about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning until about 5:30, 6 p.m. in the afternoon.
But it all feels much better out here.
It does. It does. You can feel the breeze blowing through very well. You know,
all those old vehicles, all those old boats and everything has been cleared away. Is that it?
Yes. Other local government agencies have addressed some of the issues of some of the cleaning issues and moving in cooperation with the families.
But we still have a lot more work to do. In fact, today, the Public Finance Authority just approved some additional funding for the Department of Housing, Parks and Recreation to actually redo the whole Cokie Point vendors, pavilion, boardwalk, the bathrooms, which we're hoping will really bring it all together within the next 12 to 18 months. But I think it's a much cleaner beach out there now, beach area. The parking will be a lot better. The traffic flow into the beach, to the beach, going through for those that want to go to Coral World.
So that's the story here in the cleanup at Cokie Beach, one of the famous beaches and one of the friendliest beaches I can remember down through the years here in St. Thomas at Cokie. For the cleanup, Lee Carl for News Channel 8.